Where are the good black women? That's the question we're going to try to answer with the help of this lovely lady. She is a very rare species, a non delusional Western woman. Very, very few left in the wild. So we're going to react. Well, I'm going to react to this video. But before that, I'm going to answer two questions that you probably have right away. First, who the hell are you, Alex? A nerdy white guy in a pink shirt living in Thailand to know anything about dating black women. And secondly, aren't you going to get fired from your job and cancel all over the place if you're going to talk about this issue? So let me address that first. First of all, I think it's one of the main reasons to watch my channel is because I cannot be canceled. As long as I go by the terms of use of YouTube and other social media platforms, which we absolutely will today because it's a reaction video and all the topics are brought up by this lovely lady. Um, we I don't have a corporate job. My income does no longer depend on on anything where I depend on woke culture. And actually being here in Thailand helps because if I was still in America, well, people can still come and burn my house down or something like that. But I got nothing. I got nothing in America. I live right here in Thailand, and I think that's one of the biggest benefits to listen to me because I do no longer have a pony in the race. Right, I will give you real perspective from the outside looking in, and that's the perspective that's needed. And as a matter of fact, this is something that I think black community needs a lot in America. But let me answer the bigger question. Right? Who the hell am I? Or to talk about this. Now, first of all, I love black women. It's been my preference for the longest time. I pretty much exclusively dated black women in America for over a decade before I left, and it wasn't in Los Angeles or San Francisco. It was in Oakland, California, Houston, Texas, the cities with one of the largest population of African Americans in the country. So not only I've dated black women of all different kinds, including Afro Latinos, Haitian women, African American women. Um, I've also became kind of part of some of the black communities in America, which I think a lot of white guys. There's a very rare for a white guy to date a black girl in America, and I think generally speaking, and it's usually the other way around, where the black girl actually comes to kind of live in a very white culture, right? This was kind of the other way around. But in addition to that, I've dated women kind of around the world, black women specifically, here in Southeast Asia. I've dated black women, and they're very different here, right? I mean, there are some black women here who literally only speak Thai. A lot of them are Blasians, right? Half Thai, half black, and they're very different. I mean, they're essentially Thai, but also black, right? And last month, just in case if you didn't know, I went straight to Africa and dated in Africa. And that was, I already made a video about that. That was eye-opening, I have to say. So I can easily argue that I know more about dating black women than most black men in America. However, I also want to tell you that this video is not specifically just about black women, because the problem dating black women partially is also a problem of dating any Western women in America. And that's the reason I left America after I realized you can no longer find a wife in America. It's just a problem. And this is why I've created this channel and this project. It's called the millionmenproject.com. If you go there, if you're just sitting in America and Europe, you're a single guy, you're wondering like, Alex, I'd love to get the fuck out of here, but how can I do this? I have a job. I have outlined every single step of the way how you can do it, how you can actually, an average Joe Schmo, can actually get off your ass, pick a country for you. I picked Thailand, but there's a lot of wonderful countries with amazing, cultures, old school cultures, traditional women, and you will just literally change your life. Besides the fact that you will just be away from Western women, you will have access to amazing women with family values and things that we haven't had or you haven't had in America for a while. So check that out. I put the link in the bio and the description of this video on YouTube. And honestly, you gotta do this for yourself. It will change your life. So let's get going with this video because it is very interesting, and I've definitely enjoyed watching this video. And I think there's a lot to discover, a lot of things that people don't talk about, especially white people, because like what this whole notion, right? Like, well, you're not black, so you can't talk about black issues. What do you know, right? That is such a cop out for taking responsibility for your community. It's not even fun. It's like saying, well, you can't do cancer research, and try to find cure for cancer if you don't have cancer. You know, you can't, if you're not Russian or Ukrainian or Palestinian or Israeli, you can't, report on world news. You're not a Palestinian. That is such a cop out and a weak, childish argument that I hope you understand is stupid. So let's get going. This is going to be fun. Let's me go all the way to the beginning here.
Woman. I notice anytime there is a discussion about Black love, usually there is a focus on whether or not there are enough good marriageable Black men, right? If there are Black men who have college degrees or educated, who make enough money, who are not in prison or don't have a record, who are emotionally available, the whole laundry list, right?
All right. So first of all, let's start with this. Like, she's talking about Black love. Usually it means Black woman, Black man, right? Now, because there are very few white men who date Black women and Black women who actually want to date Black men. Now, what she's referring to is this. There's a couple of things, right? That a lot of, and it is true. When I hear, and I've heard Black in America, Black women discuss dating with me, or I would literally just, because a lot of places I would go to, I would be like the only white guy. So I would overhear a lot of very authentic conversations. It's usually about how Black guys are no good. There's no way, So, and, there are challenges there for Black women as well. I'm not going to lie. I've known quite a few guys who I would hang out with as like wingman who would not have a job. And it wouldn't be very uncommon. And I remember when, one of my buddies, I asked him like, well, what do you do for work? And he was borderline offended that I asked him if he has a job. He was living with his mom and using her car and living off of her and just didn't even think about it. Getting, of course, in California, getting a lot of, benefits. Now, I know it's stereotypical, but I'm here to tell you that, it's stereotypical, but not that uncommon for my experience, right? So there are some, arguments that Black women can make that's like, listen, the pickings are thin. Now, I think a lot of this conversation started with one of the Oprah, if you remember her, Oprah Winfrey's episodes, where she basically said, like, listen, if you take a educated Black man who hasn't done any prison time, who, like I said, no kids, none of the stereotypical things. There's like, for one Black man like that Black women want, or any women would want, there's like 10 eligible Black single women for that guy, right? And therefore, I think my argument has always been very easy to say that, hey, listen, I know maybe the white guy is not the first thing that comes to your mind when you're thinking about family and stuff like that, but you know I kind of an option for you. And a lot of Black women actually think that way. I'm surprised there are no more interracial couples, white man, Black woman, than I've seen in America. And I see more interracial couples here in Thailand and in Europe that I have seen in America. Actually, I used to count. I shit you guys not. I used to count how many white guy, Black girl couples I would see. And as you know, I'm very active. I would go out every day, and I rarely would get to double digits, right? Less than 10, that I would count. But I'm very surprised. And I think as culture has kind of blurred the cultural lines and racial lines and most of the societies, I'm surprised that there are no more interracial couples. I love seeing interracial couples of any sort, and of course, I see a lot of them here, and I love that. I absolutely love that. So that's where this is coming from, right? This is where that there are less choices for Black women, statistically speaking, right? But that's a prelude to this.
But what I never ever really hear is how we define what makes a woman marriageable. I almost never hear that. And usually the conversation goes, oh, there's all these educated women.
All right, before we talk about all these educated women, she's right. Now, this is not just a black community's, singles dating life problem, right? Um, it is rarely discussed. Well, this is why channels like mine exist, and this is why the pill movement exists, is because we now do discuss what it is that women have to offer, which I would suggest to you almost nothing in Western communities, because except for that one thing that you can purchase easily, and men not holding women responsible or demanding respect. I was talking to another influencer in our community yesterday, and he was just saying, like, why is the respect always automatically given to women on a cultural basis and on a daily basis, but the other way around, that doesn't happen anymore, right? Women don't have any fucking respect for American men. And honestly, I am starting to lose respect for American men because of how large of a percentage of them are simps and have no self-respect. And that essentially is what has started um, this vicious circle where dating is just a horrible thing for both sexes in the West. And I gotta tell you, I see it coming here, right? Because I see most of these Thai men here are, pretty chivalrous, right? They kind of old school guys. A lot of them are gentlemen. They will open the doors and let the girl go in and help out. But I now see how some of the Thai women, and more of them, right, especially the ones that speak English, start taking advantage of men, right? So what's now chivalrous still here in Thailand will become simpy, right? Which is literally the opposite. Uh, because I see now Thai men are not waking up to it, of course, just like all of us, including myself, were just kind of taken by storm. Like we one day realized, wait a second, what the hell just happened to all these women? And then we realized, oh shit, we did that. Right, we have to take responsibility. So yeah, conversation has not been had a lot. And I lately I've been when I come across these very westernized, Thai women or some Western women on a dating app that I use. I only use one pretty much. Um, I see I see all like the list of demands of what they want, right? I want this and I want this and I want this. And I usually just reply to them, right? Because you cannot be rude to them on dating apps. Dating apps are like the most woke apps in America, right? If you in any way challenge a woman in a certain way where her feelings are hurt, you will have your account removed in America, right? Now, I use Thai friendly, so they're not woke here. But if you use Tinder or Bumble, you will get banned. I've gotten banned multiple times from those apps. And it's, by the way, it's not that easy to get in. One thing those apps are not really good at filtering out prostitutes and sugar babies or having them collect followers on Instagram. They're not very good at that. But they're very good at banning you. Like it's actually like you would have to get like a new phone or a new SIM card in order to get back in there. Now, you shouldn't be on Tinder and Bumble in the first place, but I'm just saying that holding women accountable for anything is a problem, and will get you kicked out. But here, I can still do that. So when I see a woman with a long list of requirements, I simply message her, said, "Wow, that's a quite sizable." List of requirements that you have, but I was just wondering, a man who can satisfy that list, what does he get in return? And you know how often I get an actual answer? Zero times. Pretty much never I get a real answer because they either don't reply, right? They go like, "Oh fuck, how dare he question this? How dare he has to have requirements and self-respect?" But usually the answer is, well, me. I just show up and have a pulse, and that's it. And then I can demand the problem, of course. And once again, we're going to get back to the same problem. You motherfuckers, you simps, and guys with no respect in America and pretty much around the world allow for that. You go like, oh yeah, well that's enough. Yeah, you having a pulse, that's great. Yeah, let me get going on that list. Let me give you money. Let me give you attention. Let me give you time. Everything that I've worked for and continue to work for in the future. Let me just give it to you for existing, right? Because she's pretty, right? This is when I told you about my the millionmanproject.com. I said that this is a guide. It's the most comprehensive guide out there. You will not find any more detail of a guide, just click on that link and you'll see how long the table of contents is what you need to do, step-by-step instructions on what you need to do to come to a country like Thailand or Philippines and Cambodia or Colombia, and have an amazing dating life. There's a long list of shit you need to do to improve yourself before you can show up here. Because if you show up here the way you are, a simp, having no respect for yourself, having no boundaries, you will end up in the same shitty relationship as you were going to end up in America. So there's no reason to come. There's an entire self-improvement section, so go there and check it out, just so you know what the items that are needed for you to be a man good enough to deserve a traditional woman in here in Southeast Asia or South America and Africa. Now, I don't recommend Africa. I thought it was a good place to date. It was not, and I already made a video about that. But now, let me take a quick comment from the live chat here. The comment is there's a lot of Sims trying to save the West. Yeah, I don't even know what that means, trying to save the West. And I guess he continues to say, but we need Sims to pay taxes for fat single Western mothers so the government doesn't crack down on passport bros. Well, I don't know how a government can crack down on passport bros, which I consider myself to be one, as much as I hate the term. But it's, yeah, I agree with your comment. There's just too many Sims. And this is honestly, if men stop being Sims, find some self-respect, realize what a quality woman is, which a lot of American and Western men don't anymore, it will change everything, right? Because what you permit, you promote. I say this in almost every video, guys, right? What you permit, you promote. If you allow this type of behavior from women, you will essentially encourage them to do more and get worse and worse and worse. And like I said, I'm already seeing that here in Southeast Asia, right? Because it's inevitable. But there's still a good chunk of population here of women who are traditional. They're usually in provinces, but nevertheless. And even when I was in Africa, right, in Nairobi, awful attitude from women. But in the outside of Nairobi, it was definitely better. So, and that goes for everywhere. But at the same time, like I said before, in every remote village, in every part of the country, if there is a pretty girl that has a smartphone and a Wi-Fi connection, which most of them do, she will absolutely know how to take advantage of Sims. She will know what her value is in dollars or British pounds or euros or whatever. Here in Thai baht, that's our currency, and she will already be damaged. So, but that's a whole different topic. Now, let's continue watching because she's just about to talk about educated women.
Or these women who have these great careers and they are attractive or they have great personalities or they're hardworking. But where are all the men, right? And so they usually will set up the story by saying there's all these career focused women who are looking for men who are on their level, aka have equal or higher social status, equal or a higher amount of money. But the thing is, just because a woman has a career or just because a woman has a college degree does not inherently make her marriageable.
She's right. And, by the way, I didn't want to stop her because she is on a roll. And this is why I picked this video. We need to put these women in some sort of a sanctuary, right? So they don't die off there's very few women like this. I've actually done a video yesterday also about, reacted to a video where a woman was actually non-delusional type that kind of understood what happened to her and why most of American and Western women just don't no longer marriage material at all. They're not wife material. So that's the video that I did yesterday. I would argue that and I've argued many times, there are plenty of videos on my channel about why a career woman is not a marriage material or girlfriend material or really even a friends with benefits material at all. It's simply for two main reasons, right? First, what career means is that career will be always the number one priority, right? Oh, honey, you want to go out on a Friday night for a romantic dinner? No, I'm sorry, I have to work late. My boss, tells me I have to work on Friday nights to get a promotion or to get part. You will always lose. You will always lose to the career. Well, there's really three main reasons now that I think about it. Secondly, a career woman doesn't need your money. You're no longer can be a provider, which is your main role in a family, because she can do it herself. She can buy herself flowers, right? So these women are useless. They've decided to play a role in the men in their own lives and providers, and there's much less time for them to be wives because it requires time. But most importantly, in order to be a career woman, right, you have to have a lot of masculine qualities that usually are great in a man, right? You have to be combative, argumentative, go-getter, loud, aggressive, all of those things that are great for a man, but awful as a woman. And most of these women are completely incapable. And I understand why, to turn those features off when they get home, right? As a matter of fact, they might get home after you. You might come to a cold, soulless home, right? Where to me, if you have a wife, she better be there when you show up after work when you are a provider, right? With a warm dinner in a nice little skirt and heels. Not every day, but most of the days. And with a great massage. Otherwise, why the fuck would you have a wife? Honestly, there's just no reason. And this is why I gotta tell you guys, when you come here to these countries, uh, the best thing about it is that you have choices, right? Because like when I came here to Thailand, I wanted to have a wife, right? That was my main goal, but not anymore, because I realized, like, whoa, I have so many choices that having a wife, as great of a choice as it is, and I still will pursue it if it's with the right girl, there are so many other choices for men, not for women. Women, single women, even married women don't last here very long. But for single men, oh my God, just the fact that you're having choices, you can pick a lifestyle you can live with a woman or women here and have a great the rest of your life. That's why it's so important to come here. So let's continue to go on. Interesting comment. Let me take that. Tradcons cosplayers trying to bait men. That's very interesting. Talking about trad wives and everything. I'm glad it is a thing nowadays, right? You will see trad wives having pretty successful accounts and essentially kind of training other women the benefits of being a wife, which is insane that we even have to talk about that, right? The benefit, because to me, no better job out there to have a great life is to be a wife to a good man who is a good provider, right? I mean, you know, I was always almost jealous of my ex-girlfriends because I was like, I remember one time I told my girlfriend, I was like, hey, do you even realize how much the rent is? Or how is it that every year the tags on your Mercedes and later Tesla were just automatically renewed? Do you even know what the registration do? Or did you know that magically the registration card gets switched up in your glove compartment like every year? No, they had no clue, right? What a fucking great life that they have, because that's the best way. Why do these women decide to have their own careers and be men and essentially sacrifice their personal lives? I mean, look how many of them, I react to, just the ones that dare to post their videos crying about being single in their 30s and 40s and having absolutely no prospects and hopes of ever getting a man. And most of them won't. They will die alone, and most importantly, they will live alone. Dying alone is, it's not a big deal, I think, right? I mean, in my case, I will always have a couple of Filipino or Thai nurses around me. It will be fun. And it's short, right? But living alone for decades for a woman who cannot purchase all the things that she needs from a man is must be the worst thing ever. So, all right, well, let's continue because this is getting interesting.
And so I think while there is so much focus on the ways in which black men are not showing up in the dating market, supposedly, I think a more well rounded conversation would also be to ask, well, how are black women themselves showing up?
That's a great question. Now, it's not just black men who are not showing up. Now, the black men are not showing up and let's just take eligible bachelor black men, right? The ones with jobs and education and all of that stuff, right? And no criminal records. Like the black guys that women want. um, they're not showing up for two different actually ways. One is they're not showing up like a lot of Western men are not showing up in America and Europe by, and I know some of them personally, by basically just walking away. Earlier today, my former assistant, just I'm still in touch with him. He sent me a video of this what I don't even know. It was like ancient times, castles and cosplay event where it was pretty much all men. Uh, and he said, like, this is how men entertain themselves now in America, without women, having a good time with each other, spending money on themselves and not having to spend money on women, not being nagged, not having to deal with not, showing up to the dates just so they can pay for the dinner and still getting stood up. None of that. They're literally just entertaining themselves with whatever hobbies they got and hanging out with each other. So there are more and more men walking away in America. And there's a hashtag for that, right? It's a whole movement, which I think is, I guess, is a second best thing to becoming a passport bro, which I encourage every single, like, the reason my channel is called the Million Man Project is because I would like to be big enough to help a million men to get the fuck out of America or a Western country and find themselves in a much, much, much better dating setting. And this is why I encourage you to go to the millionmanproject.com, the site that I took 3 months to create that website. And like I said, you will not find any more detailed and comprehensive guide to how to move out of America and become a passport bro, even though, like I said, I'm not really crazy about the term. So, all right. And it's a good question about, like, well, how are black, because black men are not showing up and men in general not showing up in two different ways. Now, the black men are not showing up for the second way, as I mentioned, is because a lot of black men feel that they don't want to date just black women anymore. They'd rather date white or Asian women. There's actually a uh, um, subcategory of passport bros that are black passport bros, right? They specifically don't want to date black women anymore. They would rather come here, and I see them here all the time. They are with um, Thai women. You know what I mean? Um, Thai women who would consider to be fat here, by the way. Any girl who's not like skinny here, it will tell you, "I'm sorry, I'm fat." Like, she'll be like, "I'm fat," and I'll be like, in America you would be skinny, right? And she'll like, well, I'm here and I'm fat, right? So it's amazing. So the guys come here to Southeast Asia. A lot of them go to Brazil, obviously, in South America. That's where a lot of black passport bros are, because of they're much like me, booty man. So, but I love Thailand for many other reasons, not just because of women. So, and that's another problem, right? Black men are just do no longer, a lot of them want to date black women because they believe, and you can watch many of their videos that are out there, is that they don't like the attitude of black women towards black men. And generally they feel black women now have even worse attitude than white or Asian women. And this is something that most black guys will not be ashamed to tell you in your face. And I see how a lot of them talk to black women online and even in person. So it is a thing.
Are black women marriageable? And if so, how? What are the qualities that make them marriageable?
That's a great question, right? Because nobody ever asks that. Well, first of all, white people are afraid to ask that, right? And this is what I started my video with like, holy shit, will I get canceled for this? I won't. Um, but I'm very rare, right? This, again, I think, is one of the biggest reasons to watch my channel, is because I will tell you what I think and I cannot be canceled. A lot of people who talk about this, they have jobs to get back, right? And if they make videos the way they want to make videos, like I do, and it gets to their jobs, to their HR departments, they will get fired, right? Even though everything I'm saying here is true, right? None of what I'm saying is either sexist or racist or any of that stuff. But you know how things are in America and Europe nowadays, right? If you criticize anybody who is not the same color gender as you will be labeled as a hater and you need to be canceled, right? That's just kind of how things go over there. And this, one of the things I do not miss about America, is that just the wokeness. And by the way, if you're conservative and watching me and you go like, yeah, wokeness, conservatives do the same thing as liberals, just in different ways. They like to cancel people all the time. Less so, but it's still a problem. All right, let's see what she has to say. By the way, once again, very rare to see a non-delusional woman in America of any color. I'm going to tell you this one more time. Every time I do a reaction video, and most of the time the videos that I react to, I have not much love for the creator, for the person talking, unlike today and yesterday. But every time, whether I like them or not, I always reach out to them through personal messages or just comment saying, hey, I would love to interview on my channel. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably know that I have not yet to do an interview with a woman. I've asked many of them, and as much shit as they like to talk on social media, they shut up real quick when I'm asking them if I can ask them some follow-up questions and see if I can shovel some of their BS out of the way. So now in this case, I hope she agrees, because it sounds like we're on the same page. But who knows, right? Because she also has a job, I'm sure, and she doesn't want to put her career or her job in jeopardy, right? All right, let's keep going.
And secret, or a little hint, hint, clue, clue, it is not your degree. It is not you're marriageable because you went and got a master's or a doctorate or whatever. Like that.
Yeah, she's right. And this is something that a lot of women just don't fucking understand. I tried. I do go to meetups here with Western women, and I do talk to Westernized Thai women. And my God, the delusion level is unbelievable. They truly think that one of the things that they bring to the table is their education and the money, where it's actually the opposite. The more educated woman is, especially where the college degree is fine, right? But masters and PhDs are essentially means that, like, I spend my 20s not trying to look for a husband, not trying to become a better wife. I spent my 20s for me and my money and my career. And as you know, no man is interested in that. No good, self respecting man who makes his own money is interested in a woman who's got her own money, because that money will always be her money. We don't need it. It's not a thing. It's always a drawback. It's always a negative. That shit. She been fucking around trying to make her own money and not figuring out how to cook a better meal or how to give a better massage. Right? These women are horrible at cooking. These women are horrible. They wouldn't even, like, if you ask them, do you know how to cook? They'll be like, oh my God, why are you asking me this, you fucking sexist piece of shit, right? Where women here, and this is why I'm telling you guys, you probably haven't seen this in a while or ever, is a woman will tell you that, go out with me because I can cook for you, right? That's a positive, where pretty much all career women in America will be like, how dare you? I'm not here for cooking, right? Well, there's a door over there. Go back to your cats and antidepressants, and well, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. But a lot of you losers don't. A lot of you losers, and I'm talking about you, American simpy men, you still go like, well, great, she has a career, she's got her own money. Let me see and let me put up with all of that bullshit and take her masculine energy and not getting my meals cooked while I'm still paying for goddamn dinners. If you and like most of these women, they'll make their own money and they'll keep their own money, right? You'll still be paying for dinners, except for they will require those dinners to be in much fancier restaurants than an average girl would, right? So essentially, and I don't think even this girl realizes that having a PhD or a master's or a career, it is essentially a deal breaker. So and the fact that they still don't get it, it is unbelievable. But she gets it a little bit, right? Um, Now let me answer another question about my experience in Africa. Aren't Africans still breed a lot? That's a little weirdly phrased. Do you mean have sex? You're trying to avoid saying sex? If yes, then why the dating in Africa is so westernized? Now, I'll tell you. I don't know what's up with the part of that first part of that question, but I'll tell you why my experience in Africa was awful, and it was because the African how I went to Kenya, right? So, which is a good representative of Africa. Obviously, I have not gone to other countries. I mean, I went to Egypt, but that's not really Black African country, right? Or at all, you would say. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why it was not good. The women behaved exactly the same way as Western women, except for, African women cannot most of the time do what American and European women can, which is provide for themselves. jobs is a problem in Africa and in Kenya in particular. And so a lot of people, including women, just don't have money. They don't have jobs. They don't have money to even, have their teeth cleaned, or have their, pap smears done. And it is a problem. And so a lot of times I would invite a girl for a date, and she would ask me to pay for a taxi. And at first I was like, no. My answer is always no, because as soon as a woman asks for money in any type, especially to pay to get to the first date, so I have a privilege of, I'll pay to have a privilege to pay. No, fuck off. But in Africa, I realized that, well, if you don't do that, they they just can't do, like, they don't have money to get to you. Like, it's not that them trying to gold dig and get extra money out of your wallet. It's literally they can't, you know. So most of these Kenyan women, they just cannot afford their own assets. So if anybody needs a provider, right? And I'm not saying these women need to gold dig. Some of them should, but just having a provider in a family, which they know historically and probably moving forward, it will be very hard to live your life without money, without jobs, without opportunities, without health insurance, and all of that stuff, right? And so having a good husband who is a good provider should be the goal, right? And yet it wasn't. These women would do exactly the same thing that what the Western women would. They would either require you to pay, even though some of them could, right? And they still would require you to pay. They would not show up to the dates. They would ghost. They would tell you that, like, well, just so you know, I'm not wearing heels or doing makeup, which to me is always like, well, then we're not having a date, because then, like, well, then I'm not paying for you. How about this? You don't put a makeup on and heels on, but you pay for the date, because otherwise, like, what are we doing here? So it was incredible that these girls really just did not at all act like they need a man, and they, if anybody, they do. So and I just got, I budgeted for a month, right? Because I genuinely went there to find a girl that I might actually have a good connection with, create a relationship. Like, I like to date quite intensely in the beginning. Like, if I like a girl and I had a good time with her last night, I want to see her tonight and the day after and the day after. There's no reason to, like, pause, right? If we both have time. So I thought, and then if things work out pretty good, I can stay for another month, or, I will bring her with me here to Thailand so she can see where I live. Because essentially, if we were to have a long-term relationship, she would have to move to right here to Thailand, which I believe is the best place on earth to live, regardless of your dating status. Unless you are a Western woman, then it's horrible for you. You will die alone. You will absolutely die alone here. And I cut my visit short. I budgeted for 4 weeks and I cut it short after two. You know what? I used that extra money to go to Egypt to see the pyramids. So, I picked pyramids over black women, and I love black women. So that's the explanation for. Okay, and you're clarifying in a chat that it's about the birth rate. Okay, because you phrased it weird, because I don't think breeding is the best word to use. That will get you canceled. Okay. So yes, so Africa still has high birth rates, but what does that have to do with anything? I'm just saying that just a dating experience is it. And I'll tell you why actually it has a high birth rate. The like, one of the people who I met there was like my driver, the driver who I hired. He said that a lot of guys do real pump and dump strategy. They'll meet a girl, they won't use condoms, which is, by the way, is on both, right? And then they would just move to a different county, because child support is, if you're in a different county, you're like exempt from child support, from what I understood, right? Which is a horrible strategy to do, but at the same time, it's women who control who has sex with them, essentially, right? And if they allow this, and yes, a lot of get pregnant, a lot of single mothers, and that's another problem in Africa, right? A lot of single mothers raising boss chicks without fathers, and it's the same problem as America. And that's exactly what I did the live stream about yesterday, based on another woman's TikTok video. But let's keep watching.
Does not make a woman any more marriageable. I have found, just through conversations and listening to different men and talking to different men and just observing, that it's really less about a woman's degree and more about a woman's ability to be a feminine counterpart.
She's got that right. I have a feeling a bit of a more of explanation coming, and then we'll listen to that. But absolutely right. I cannot emphasize that the degree is not worth shit for us. And if it's a PhD or a master's, if it's a degree that gave a woman a career, it's literally a deal breaker. Like when I see when within a dating app, or when I meet a girl in person and she says, "Well, I'm working on a master's, or I got a master's or PhD, or I'm an executive or whatever," automatically goodbye. There's nothing you can do for me. Like, oh, women like that, because they're so masculine, they can become friends. Like, I'm not a big fan of being friends with women, though my best friend here in Thailand is a woman, but she is a fucking boss chick, right? She is a fucking boss chick. So absolutely, the number one thing that men really appreciate, and a lot of women have no fucking clue about it, is peace, right? That is a feminine quality, to give peace to a man. Right? I made a video about this, essentially, where I said, listen, if you're dating someone, and I'm going to tell you guys the same thing. If you're dating someone right now, or you're thinking about dating someone, just ask yourself, can she compete with your dog, or with a dog? And I know people say, "Oh, you comparing women to dogs? That's fucked up." I'm not comparing women to dogs. I'm just asking, can they compete with them? Because I feel like if you're, all about that, great. Then a woman can easily win a competition, right? What's the problem? Well, the problem is a lot of women cannot, right? And if they cannot compete with a small domestic animal, why are they there in your life, right? When you come through that door into your household, is your girlfriend, is your wife coming to you happy to see you? Like, can she compete with a dog therapy? It's not that hard, you know when you just want to relax and watch TV with a beer in your hand, just to come down from the stress of the day. Is she just sitting there quietly and massaging you and just giving you peace? Again, can she compete with a dog? If not, why the fuck are you with that girl? So, I got a lot of slack from that video, but I absolutely 100% stand on my ground there. Absolutely. If, like I said, if your girlfriend or wife is unable to compete, get a dog, get rid of the wife. Sorry, it's just that simple. And a lot of women don't understand that giving you peace is the number one goal. Number two is, of course, the beauty and the youth, right? That's another thing that women don't understand. A lot of times, women nowadays tell me, they're like, "Well, just so you know, I'm not wearing heels or doing my makeup or hair." And then to me, it's like absolutely 100% deal breaker, because if you're not gonna look your best, for the first date, I mean, it's like coming to a job interview, which, by the way, first dates absolutely are. It's like coming to a job interview, instead of like wearing a suit and a tie, in your sweats and Crocs, for an executive position, in saying, "Well, I mean, you haven't gotten hired yet. Well, if you hire me, I will wear a suit. But for the interview, no, I'm not going to put that kind of effort into an interview." Right? That's the mentality that a lot of women have, without realizing that's exactly like, when I go on a date, half of the time when I see a girl, I already know that's it. This is not going to work, right? Because of the way she's dressed, because of the effort or the lack of effort that she put into her appearance to come to that date. So she's absolutely right. But there's more explanation coming.
AKA, does she have a nice personality? Is she nice? Is she easy to get along with?
You know, it's funny that the bar is that low nowadays, right? Is she nice? Is she easy to get along with? Then the answer, and please, if you have a wife or girlfriend, check on that. Is she nice? Does she have a good personality? Is she easy to get along with? Because if the answer is no, you're a fucking loser. You are such a loser and a simp that you put yourself in a situation where you have a partner that's supposed to make your life better, and instead you are with someone who's making your life worse, and you're tolerating it, and you're probably paying for it on daily basis. And this is what's wrong with American men, who in return essentially is the answer why what's wrong with American women in general, and what's wrong with a lot of black women in particular, since we are on that topic today. So compare your wife to a nice individual, and then also a dog, and see if she can win. If not, you are a sucker, right? You're a sucker.
Is she attractive to that man? Does she have a clean record? A lot of dudes, especially those who are educated or the ones who are considered more high body or more high value, may not want a woman that has a lot of bodies, or may not want a woman who has a whole bunch of different kids with different dudes.
Well, yeah, okay. Those are two different topics. Now, this is where I disagree in part with the red pill philosophy, where if a woman has a high body count. I mean, if she's over 100 or even over 50 and she's 22, yeah, that's a little too high. But here's the thing, and maybe some of you guys don't understand or haven't experienced it, or you just don't have high standards or know what good sex is. But I gotta tell you, I've seen quite a few women here and even in America that I've dated that only had, very few, if any, partners before me. And I got to tell you, what a horrible sex I've had with those women. It is absolutely unbearably horrible. I like, no matter how amazing that girl is, and guys go like, oh no, I'm gonna teach her and everything. Well, first of all, most of you are not really good at it either, dudes. So what are you gonna teach her? What you've seen on Pornhub? That's stupid. And how really know how to teach her? A lot of these women don't want to be taught. They're Because sex has never been part of their life. It's not something that they look at as a necessity, as a thing that they want to do. They're not willing to be trained in that. I've tried, by the way. I said, oh, that's okay, she's horrible in bed, that's okay, let me teach her. They don't want to be taught. you know they don't want to be taught. So what are you going to do? You want to get a girl who hasn't been with many guys or any at all, and then have a horrible sex life for the rest of your life? And don't you want your partner to bring something to the table when it comes to sex, when it comes to the bedroom? Like, why wouldn't you? So I differ there, because again, my experience has been quite awful with these type of women, as amazing as they were as people, right? So body count is one thing, but I just got lost from what she said, so I'm gonna have to repeat it.
Or may not want a woman who has a whole bunch of different.
Single mothers, of course. Yeah, single mothers are absolutely 100%, recreational use only. Unless you are a single father who has at least 50% custody of your children, then I would recommend that you only date single mothers. But if you're a single guy like me without any kids, dating a single mother is just the worst idea ever. It is just the worst idea ever. I've made videos about it like all day long. You can see it on my channel. I don't think there is a red pill channel out there that doesn't have a million videos about why you should not ever date single mothers. Now, of course, if you're a guy in your 50s or 60s and you're dating women in their 40s and even 50s, they're no longer single mothers if their kids are out of the house, right, in their 20s. So then it's fine, right? They're no longer single mothers. Now, of course, if their relationship with their kids are like way too tight, which is okay. But again, the question is, will you be their number one, or those kids are so close to their mommy that they will still continue being number one and priority at all time? Then, or they even live with her still, then of course that's a no-go.
Kids with different dudes, right? I mean, like, I'm just saying, I think these conversations would actually be progressive and they would actually be beneficial if the conversation was well rounded. Because if the whole black men are not marriageable, of all that, does it just become a reason to blame black men again and to bring up the same old tired talking points that have been debunked for the past few years now, right? The black men are gay, or they're snowbladed, or in prison. If all we do is just use that as a reason to blame men, then we actually never get to the root problem.
Right, but this is what's wrong with all women, not just black women, right? Black women, all women are really modern women, have no interest in taking responsibility for their own actions, or for their own words. They're not interested in improving themselves, right? If anything, and definitely my channel is one of many that you will find, is like, how many times I told you that a man has to improve himself before he shows up here in Southeast Asia, and before you can actually find a good woman. The first two modules of my course, the millionmanproject.com, is what a good woman is, because a lot of you guys don't even know what a traditional woman is. And number two is how to self-improve. I believe I call it mandatory self-improvement. mandatory self-improvement before you show up here, because a lot of men show up here and simps, have no self-respect, and end up with like the worst women. We have horrible women here too, by the way. It's not that hard to take advantage of the simp. About what, 5 6 days ago, I did a reaction video of a failed passport bro. Actually it goes on, gonna get reposted tomorrow. He outlined every single thing that he did wrong, even though he could have avoided all of them, and ended up on his ass and like broke and just disappointed in women because he showed up here a loser. You bring yourself with you here to Southeast Asia or to South America, you will have exactly the same shitty experience with women. But yeah, women don't like talking about how they need to improve, right? They never talk about how they need to improve. And that's the problem. This is something that women need to talk amongst themselves, saying, hey, maybe you should learn how to cook. Maybe you should learn how to, wear makeup. Maybe you should stop dressing like a hoe and, buy a longer skirt. Can still be a sexy skirt. You just don't need everybody to see up your cooch and see your ass cheeks hanging out, like that. Those conversations are not being had by women because, again, how the fuck would they know? They don't know how to be good wives themselves. How would they give advice to everybody else? And yet, when women ask for advice on dating, they always go to other women, which is the worst source. The worst source. If you're a woman and you want to know how to get a good man, go and talk to that good man or his brother or his wife. Well, I'm not saying you should date that one, but just generally speaking, if you know a good, you have a friend or coworker or whatever who is a good husband, and you like the way he treats his wife, ask him, what do men like you want out of the woman? And then go and look and talk to the woman. What did you do to get this man? You know, what did you do? Like that, she'll tell you. Trad wives will absolutely tell you. There are trad wives channels here for American women to learn. They just don't want to watch it, right? So yeah, it is a problem.
And I've always said there's no reality that exists in which black men are not raised to be husbands and black men are just horrible at relationships, but all of a sudden all of the black women are raised to be wives. Because I'm like, they grew up in the same household.
Absolutely. And the same household, and this is what we addressed yesterday, and this is not just a black woman's problem, but it is a bigger problem for black women. And I'll tell you why. There's a comment in the chat right now is specifically about that. That when you are raised in a single mother's household, or you do have both parents, but the father is a simp, which a lot of men are, you are going to be raised as a non-wife, and you as a girl, right? You're gonna be awful. No man would want you as a wife. No good strong man would want you as a wife because you don't know what a good strong man is. You're not attracted to him. You just and if you're a boy being raised by a single mother or a simp father, well, you're going to grow up to be a simp and you will be the bitch in a relationship, which some men like, but majority of men are just not raised that way. We're just not constructed that way to be the bitch in a relationship, right? And this is what this comment is about. I just checked. In America, almost half of black mothers are single mothers. Now, it would be interesting to contrast that compared to the general population, and I believe it will be higher. So, and this is another thing that, right? Oh, how dare you, a white guy, talk about black community and black problems? Well, but I have a calculator, right? And I have ChatGPT and statistics. I don't need to be black. If anything, why don't you thank me for suggesting something to improve your community? This is a fucking problem in general in America, but it's specifically a problem in the black community, right? Because whose fault is it? You can't. I mean, how can you can't blame white people for that problem? I mean, no black community loves blaming white people for their problems, right? And sometimes they're right. Most of the time they're wrong, but at least there's a conversation to be had there. But why are there so many? Why is the percentage of single mothers in black community higher than in the white community? That is a black community's problem. Sorry, got nothing to do with it. But I will point it out because, again, you can't cancel me. You can't call my boss or my sponsor or whatever and cancel me. Can't. I'm just going to tell you this over and over and over again. I would love for, black community leaders to come on my show, fucking any show, for all I care. I just want an answer, right? They never give you the answer for this. And I would love to, because it is a problem, and it's great that she's actually recognizing it. It is a problem, but it is not just the black women's in America problem. It is all women's. It's a cultural problem that America has. I can see it coming to Thailand. I see being already in Thailand in some of the ways, and these women who are being raised in single mothers, um, households are undateable, just completely undateable.
So if we were to sit here and say that black men are not, leveling up, or if black men are not marriage material, then we also have to look at the girls and the women and be like, okay, well, we can also conclude that the black women probably themselves are not being raised to be wives because they grew up in the same households, under the same cultural values, under the same parents.
Or the lack of parents, so the lack of fathers, the lack of cultural values, right? Because not being a wife, I don't need no man, that's not a cultural value. Okay, Beyonce should not be the thought leader. Beyonce, Taylor Swift, and others are the biggest con artists of our time, right? I mean, look at Beyonce, right? She preached what? I don't need no man, right? What's the famous song, To the Left, right? How she basically kicked the boy out because I think he cheated on her or something like that, right? She just gets get the fuck out, right? That's the goal power. But let's see what she's done in her personal life, right? Because she preached independence. We don't need no man. We can make our own money. The bitch has married like one of the few possible men out there that makes much more money than her, right? Still, didn't marry a poor guy working in McDonald's, did she? Right? She married up in terms of money. So all of that advice that she gave sure didn't take herself. And as you know, her husband cheated on her. Did she take her own advice and told him that his shit is to the left, to the left? No, she stayed because also she was, I believe, in her late 30s or early 40s. And all of a sudden, things change, right? So yeah, so when women, this is why I don't date women who speak English, because as soon as a girl speaks English, right, she starts listening to Beyonce, and the music is catchy, right? If anything, Beyonce's music is great. I'd like to rock to her music, right? But they also understand the lyrics and other bullshit, the Taylor Swift, and what's that other horrible one with always colored hair that's super fat and ugly all the time and tells women to just, you know, what is that? Billie Eilish, right? Whatever. So they start understanding those lyrics. They start watching the TV shows and movies where men are made into simps, right? And that's it. They're ruined. That's why when you come to a country where that has its own language, like Thailand or many Latin countries, the culture, these women are still protected by not understanding English. And that's a big perk, but it is very difficult to learn some of these languages like Thai. My Thai is still quite awful. I just this week I'm starting my other YouTube channel, where I'll speak a little bit of Thai. I'm finally good enough for that, but it's going to be at least 2 more years until I'm like fluent enough to just like have conversations, right? It is very difficult, especially for an old fart like me.
So I just think these conversations would be so much more valuable and so much more fruitful if we looked at things from a more well-rounded response. Yes, it's okay to ask if black men are marriageable, if we're able to define what marriageable means, but we also have to expand that conversation to include black women, because relationships are, two-sided. It's not just based upon one person getting their way and another person getting their way. It's like, no, we actually have to look at the situation in its entirety and the problem in its entirety if there is ever to be an actual real solution. I noticed.
All right, that's a very so yes. I mean, let's get into the last two things that she said, which is the conversation has to be two-sided, because and it's not. The reason conversation is not two-sided right now is because, well, men conceded to whatever it is that women want and say and whatever, and that's what a simp is. This is why majority of American men are simps, because they are not even allowing for a conversation, right? And like I said, the conversation needs to start in the beginning. When the girl says, I want this and I want this and I want this, that's great, honey. What is it that you bring to the table? You should really ask that question. We should really ask that. This should be like on men's dating profiles. If you want to match with me, please tell me what is it that you're bringing to the table, because I dare you guys to tell me what is it that Western women bring to the table, because I can tell you what Thai women, or at least the traditional Thai women and Filipino women and Cambodian women and South American women and even some African women bring to the table. They know how to cook, they know how to clean, they know how to be feminine, they know how to greet a man when he comes to they know how to shut the fuck up, they know how to give him peace. All of those things. All of those things that Western women do no longer know how to do or want to do, or both. And I got to tell you, that one little thing that's left, well, I guess it's a big thing. It is a commodity that can be purchased. This whole incel thing is very weird to me, because there's so many sugar babies in America, uh, that I don't understand how you can be an incel in America, or in any, definitely you can't, you cannot be an incel here. Like, there's no way. You can try to be an incel, you just won't succeed, right? But I don't understand how it is even a thing in America when you can easily get a sugar baby and be done with it. You know what I mean? So I hope this lady responds to my request to be interviewed, because, like I said, endangered species, right? Endangered species, an American woman who actually figured things out, right? And she said it correctly, right? We have to have a one-sided conversation, and men need to stop, conceding their part and demanding that women at least let us know what it is that they bring to the table, which, again, in case of most American women, not much, if anything. So it is, I see more and more videos like this, which does warm my heart, because this is something that, the red pill movement is about. This is why I joined it this year, right? My channel is relatively new, because the channels like mine are for kind of both sexes, right? For men who need to improve, who need to be better, and who need to get the fuck out of America or whatever Western European country you're at. I mean, if you're in Czech Republic, for example, or Poland, you probably still are okay. But if like Great Britain, France, Germany, okay, get the fuck out. And like I said, I'm gonna give you guys one more time a bit of a self plug, because this is important, very important, actually. If you want to ditch modern women and move abroad for more traditional relationships, go to themillionmanproject.com, take my most comprehensive course, and change your life. Did you see how long that table of content was? Like, I have so many, because they're all broken down into little videos. So it is long as hell, because it is a long process. But also, I wanted to make sure that, unlike a lot of men who come here completely unprepared, in not just with dating, but just even logistical things, where to live, how to learn the language, how to leave the country of your origin, what are the accounts that you need to keep, like some of the, like a typical problem. So I know this is not a dating problem, but it's a typical problem. A guy comes in as a passport bro and gets like locked out of his bank account almost immediately, because he did not keep his American number, and that's what's required to log into the bank account, right? Or has no clue how, like, keeps going to the ATM, paying $20 to withdraw $1,000, which is a robbery, right? Instead of using wise.com. And a lot of times, in order to get a Wise account, you still need to take care of some things before you leave. And with many, many other ways, like, for example, if you want to invest into mutual funds, or even just invest, you need to set all of that up before you leave America, because once you're no longer officially an American resident, and again, the law is different in different countries, but a lot of European countries are very similar, you can do a lot of things that you want. And when you get here, you also make so many mistakes, and you pay for them with money, with time, with stress. Why would you want to do that? Like, my course is quite affordable. You know what I mean? Go and get it, and just at least know how to do it. You know what I mean? Because I can't imagine you guys on daily basis, when you either swipe left and right on dating apps and talk to these women, or go out on dates, or maybe you're already in a relationship. I cannot imagine that you're not frustrated out of your fucking minds over there in America and Europe dealing with this type of women, putting so much out there, whether it's money or time or frustration or effort or stress, and getting so little from most of the time very average looking women with fucking attitude. How are you not tired from that? How are you not willing to at least look into changing your life? I mean, if you want to sit on the couch there and be a loser for the rest of your life, being treated like shit by women, or just never really date women, okay, all right. But if you have a little bit of, self-respect and love for this life left, you got to get out. So go to the millionmanproject.com. Like I said, it's free to look at the table of contents, which already will give you a lot of ideas what needs to be done. So go and look at the free table of contents. I specifically broke it all down, so you can see it. Now let me take one last comment, unless you guys have more comments in the live chat. Single motherhood stats in USA by the ethnicity. Asians 8, whites 14, Hispanics 25, black almost half. Yeah, this is a black community problem that, of course, nobody wants to talk about. People in the black community don't want to talk about it because, and of course, white people don't want to talk about it because they don't want to lose their jobs, because America is super woke. And if you criticize black people or women, and specifically black women, well, you're a piece of racist, piece of shit, misogynist bitch, right? And you need to be canceled. And let's talk to your HR department. That's probably is a woke woman who will absolutely get you fired, right? Let's talk to your advertisers that are still a lot of times run by woke organizations, and let's get your channel canceled. So or let's show up at this guy's house, right? Now, luckily, I am immune to all of this. And this is one of the biggest values of my channel, is that I can say what I actually want, and that a lot of guys cannot say. And this is why, thank you to a lot of you who support me by either super chats or the thanks or the buy my course. I am planning on having this as my future source of income at some point, because I've done it before. I had a successful electric car channel for 7 years before I started this, and I had to shut that one down, or at least put it on pause, because I knew my sponsors would never come back. Because I think this is worth it. I think this is worth it because, guys, I got to tell you, at least show up here for a few weeks. And that's part of my course. It's part of the, dry run to see which country you actually like. Because, Thailand, I love Thailand, right? But some guys love Brazil or Colombia or Philippines, right? Because it's very, very different. These countries are very different. And you want to show up here, live here. Don't be a tourist. Live here and see for yourself. You will see the difference within minutes. Just turn, I know I don't encourage using Tinder or Bumble or whatever, but just turn your Tinder and Bumble on when you land here. Okay. And actually, what, you don't even have to come here. I think OkCupid, right? It's called OkCupid. You can sign up with OkCupid, and it's one of the few apps where you can actually change the location without looking like you are in a travel mode. That's what I did with before I went to Africa. I changed my location to Nairobi, so girls could not tell if I'm actually in Nairobi or not, right? Do that and change your location to Bangkok, Thailand, or Manila, Philippines, right? Whatever. And watch something magical happen. You will start getting matches. Now, you won't get as many matches if you actually would sign up with like Thai Cupid or Thai Friendly, which you can also do. I think you need to use VPN for that, but still, I would do that just so you see how ridiculous it's going to look, because you will all of a sudden start getting matches in dozens and sometimes hundreds of women who will already like your profile. It is unbelievable. On OkCupid, I'm still, I mean, I don't use it very often, but I still have 99, say like 99 plus matches waiting for you, because I just can't get through all of them, right? It is becoming a full-time job. Imagine being a man here and feeling like you're a, hot blonde with big boobs in the Los Angeles. The demand is kind of the same here. Now, of course, there are nuances. Some of these women are gold diggers. Some of these women are just not good in many different ways. Some of them are single mothers. Some of them have tattoos and all that stuff. So there's some filtering to do. But the fact that the tables are turned here and you have choices now, it is mind-blowing. So I invite you to do that. If you have questions about my course, definitely message me. I also do private tutoring for men when they come here. It doesn't have to be specifically Bangkok, Thailand. When you come to a new country, and especially before that, I will walk you through all of the steps so you don't fuck up, so you don't lose money, and you don't end up in the wrong hands of a woman, which a lot of men do. And that is because sometimes even worse than getting divorced in America if you don't know what you're doing. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and those of you who participate in the chat. I know I can't always answer all of the questions there, but I appreciate that. And of course, a lot of you comment afterwards because most of the people watch these after I am done. I don't know what video I'm going to respond to tomorrow. It will be fun. So please, please tune in and participate. And if you see some videos that you think I should respond to and react to, again, thank you to this lovely lady. I hope she comes on my channel and we can have an actual live conversation. Let me know. You can reach me at on Twitter or Instagram, and all of my usernames are listed in my YouTube channel as well. So thanks so much for joining me. I am off to having a delicious Thai meal for $2, including a drink. And off I go to making more videos for you guys. So thanks for hanging out, and I will see you tomorrow right here.